Lowndes bouncing around as he normally would. We had a good laugh with David Reynolds there before. Seems like he's quietly got a point to prove before he moves on from the Bottle Racing team at the end of the season. And Frosty has been the man so close on so many occasions. He wants this title. You ask any of the guys that know in this sport, they say this is an important round, but it is going to go down to the wire in Sydney. Fascinating end to our championship. And this one plays out at one of the great racing venues. About an hour and a half's drive from the Melbourne CBD, 4.4 Ks of glorious racetrack.
12 corners, high average speed just on 175 kilometres an hour, characterised by a very fast front straight where you can see Bass Straight at the end of it, 285 kilometres an hour, and you spend a disproportionate amount of time turning left around here, which really hammers the front right and right rear tyres. It's very low stress in terms of the brakes, other than for Jamie Whincup, who had a brake issue out there at the moment. Low stress for bumps, but very, very high in terms of tyre stress and tyre wear, and that's something that's got to be managed, in particular for our longer race for tomorrow. That was a big moment down there for those guys all of a sudden when they spotted that problem in the front left corner of the car. There was a huge flurry of activity. It caught us a bit by surprise, raced back up the front of the grid and saw some open heart surgery on that car. So for two contending teams today, for both ProDrive and for Red Bull, quick and hurried repairs pre-race.
Triple Eight would not have had any time to enjoy the fact that Jamie's pole is the 92nd pole for them in this sport. That's the record for most poles by any team in championship history. Special pole for Red Bull Racing Australia and for Triple Eight. And McLaughlin will be on the front row of the next race, but he has pole, and Whincup will start beside him. Row 2, of course, Reynolds and Lowndes and Winterbottom alongside Van Gisbergen. Van Gisbergen is in the top 6 in this sport. He could affect how things play out for the championship contenders ahead of him. James Moffat, Rick Kelly, 2 Nissans in the top 10. Great work. Todd Kelly had good speed on Friday. Wasn't happy with the direction they went with the car this morning. He's gone back to something a bit closer to the setup he had in that car yesterday to get a bit more confidence. Will Davison out of 17 for this one, but did a good job in the other qualifying session. Lee Holdsworth for the Charlie Schwerkolt Racing team. We've learned today that that operation will be moving. Structure is moving for next year, and we'll talk more about that. Paul Dumbrell, a late substitution in for Nick Percat, who is no doubt watching back in hospital in Melbourne with the infection flaring up in his right foot again. Get well, Nick. We want to see you at the wheel of that car at the Sydney 500. A championship in play. This guy's one of the contenders. This is going to be terrific. Scott Pye as well, out of position 8, off the back of his podium finish in New Zealand. There's so much to think about. Courtney, as he detailed in that walk with Greg Murphy, wants to enjoy, to taste some success at this venue. Get on board the conversation. Who do you think's going to take this one out? Who will win the WD-40 Phillip Island SuperSprint this weekend, and what impact will it have on the championship as we take a look at the top 3 players? Calm now. Lots of fire in the belly for David Reynolds to win the title. It's only 14 laps around this venue. It's brutal. It's tough on tyres, the toughest we come to. So much so that unlike other Super Sprint races, we did not bring, we don't have the use of the soft compound rubber this weekend. They're on the hard tyres. And who can manage the tyres as this race unfolds? That'll be a story as well. How's the brake pressure for Jamie Whincup? Can he play some sort of role and help Craig Lowndes as well?
Well, I don't know about you, Crompo, but when I was down here earlier, when everyone was forming up before and getting ready for this race, the tension is definitely electric down here, no question about it. Maybe not so much on the front row that we've been accustomed to see of late from Pukekohe. These two on the front, who's going to make it into the first turn? It's row 2 and row 3 are the ones that I'm interested in looking at. It is going to be all on here. This championship is building. It is absolutely building. How is Red Bull going to manage this with Craig Lowndes? Are they going to look at some sort of strategy to get Craig Lowndes up there and get some more points? I don't know, but I think also Shane Van Gisbergen, he's looking at spoiling this party. This is all on.
And Winterbottom showing no signs of taking a conservative approach either. He says he is here to play hardball.
Van Gisbergen, remember, closing rate for him at the back end of last year's championship was impressive, and he ended up as the runner-up. His run to the flag was very strong.
Okay, last car is in its spot. Last car's
Word
green
from
up.
the pit lane is that both teams are reporting systems normal for both cars number 1, Jamie Whincup, and car 5, Winterbottom.
Here we go. First of 3 races for the weekend in the WD-40 Phillip Island SuperSprint Championship at a crucial phase. The players all close together on the grid. Good start by Jamie Whincup. Tough one for Scott McLaughlin. Lowndes has made a ripper start in car 888. One of the Nissans has struggled off the line. I think Michael Caruso perhaps drifting back, or maybe Dale Wood into turn 1 for the first time. Good job, Craig Lowndes.
Lowndes got an amazing whole shot. We've got 3 cars in the grass down there, including Rick Kelly. Scott Pye awkwardly trips back on. Watch out for Rick rejoining here as well. It skittles the back of the pack. It involves Tim Blanchard and David Wall. But how about the bolt from Craig Lowndes? He's rocketed straight into contention and leads the pack into turn 4.
Great record here, Craig Lowndes. He leads them through turn 4 for the first time. Moffat makes a move on Winterbottom. Look at car 22, Courtney with the elbows out, forces Winterbottom wide as they run into Siberia.
On board with Frosty, has a reset of the throttle in the middle of Siberia. That's Courtney in the foreground. Lowndes has come straight out of position 3 and rocked straight on by his teammate.
Reynolds on that colder rubber, catches it, gathers it. That would have got the heart rate up and over Lukey Heights. Whincup, McLaughlin's behind him, so is Reynolds. Winterbottom has dropped some spots in 8th right now. Look at the fight going on here between the teammates. Coulthard muscles his way past the Team BOC entry. Jason Bright, Dale Wood, forced wide. I think that's by Chris Pither coming through, is it? Pither in the Super Black Racing entry. It's on at the back of the field here.
Lowndes, Whincup, half a second is the margin, then McLaughlin, then Reynolds as things settle down for a moment. We take a breath. Van Gisbergen.
Coulthard, great pace, launched off that final turn and gets down the inside of Will Davison at turn 1 at the end of the Gardner Straight. Good job by the Kiwi. 14th now.
James Moffat made ground on the first lap as well. Jumped up from 9th position into 6th in between Van Gis and Courtney, and now Courtney looking here in this argument to continue to swap positions. These guys are a couple of very hard races. So James off to a very strong start. This is Mark Winterbottom that we're riding with. He's in 8th.
Looks like Van Gisbergen putting pressure on Reynolds. Reynolds is gone! David Reynolds has gone around! Somehow saves it. Does he keep it off the wall? Good catch, David Reynolds, but he's lost a swag of positions after a touch by the Kiwi.
Gather it up, mate. Gather it up.
How will that be viewed?
Hey, what was that about?
Oh, championship on the line. Reynolds goes to the back of the pack after contact with Shane Van Gisbergen. Pye with his hands full here, slades through into 10th. Cameron Waters as well, up ahead.
Todd Kelly underneath Scott Pye. Fabian Coulthard's going to join that party as well. It's hard to unravel what happened there to Reynolds. He's had a touch-up, but exactly why, I'm not 100% sure, but he was very, very lucky to get away with it. Puts him to the very back of the pack and highly likely to have pretty significant damage on those tyres.
Oh, that's incredible for Reynolds.
Brad Musherson is on the radio at the moment saying, OK, let's now use this race as we go to the start replay here to understand our aero balance and make a better job of it in the second race. So immediately counselling David. Here's the front row. Tardy start by McLaughlin. Ripping start by Lowndes off row 2. Tander a good start as well. He's moved up into 8th. And this is the one that mattered. He controlled the wheel spin beautifully for Lowndes. How's that? He's grabbed second and just rocketed straight past Jamie. And here's the other view on the outside of turn 1. 3 guys in the weeds down there, including initially Van Gisbergen, then Pye, then Rick Kelly, and then a bump from David Wall sends Tim Blanchard wide. And here's the exchange between Shane and David. So he's just tripped over his nose. He's tried to close down on him. and he's rotated around the nose of Shane van Gisbergen. Very, very lucky here. Let's have a look at and listen to this one. So he's ended up being stuck on the hard cut in gear, not being able to pull the gear, with Shane jammed in the rear of it with a big shove. As you quite rightly drew breath on that one, Greg, because that is a heart-stopping moment in a place where you can ill afford to come undone. And to walk away from that one without car damage in a corner that's 225 kilometres an hour in fifth gear.
Rod Nash. Rod, we all held our breath, and you've just had a chance to see the replay. Just your thoughts on that incident with Dave?
Pretty average. I mean, you know, you couldn't be more behind the car if you tried. So, yeah, that's just a stupid driving desperation move, that one. So, but unfortunately, it doesn't matter. I mean, you hopefully get a drive-through, but it doesn't help anything. Dave sort of turned around up the rear, and it's got to wait for the next race now.
In a good spot for the next one, so our fingers crossed we get some points.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I'll just grab in Steve Mann, some bit of touch there with Shane and David Reynolds. The boys down at 55 Bottle, not very happy with that. What did Shane say on the radio? Anything at all?
Shane just commented that you moved over on him, so we'll have to wait and see what happens.
So he was nothing else before that? Nothing from, he just moved over? Sorry, it was just Shane saying that he moved over. There was nothing else before it?
There was a bit of action. There was a bit of action early on, but that's part of what we have to do. So.
Okay, thanks, mate.
I think what he's referring to there is that at turn one between the pair of them on the opening laps. So,
yeah, and they were rattling on each other down at Siberia as well. So this will be Shane unhappy about the fact that he's been carted wide down there at turn one. But it's willing racing between all parties here. I think this will be one of those, in fact, it's just come up as I was about to say, it'll be a post-race investigation, because what Jason Bargwanna will need to do as the driving standards observer is look at the onboard cameras from both cars that are the V8 supercar cameras as distinct from the television cameras, and also look at the data to understand whether racing room was given and what the preceding 30 to 60 seconds looked like. That'll be one that they'll no doubt get into some spirited debate about at the end of the race.
So the position of the players, top three in the standings. Lowndes leads this race. Mark Winterbottom, points leader, is 7th. David Reynolds, 25th and last for now, with an investigation of that incident with Shane van Gisbergen. A couple of other stories. Good job, Garth Tander. From the 8th row of the grid, he is up into position 8. Again, he's made some good ground at the start. So if things were to stay as they are now, Lowndes would move ahead into 2nd place and trail Frosty by 213, with 2 races still to come. Another 14-lap sprint this afternoon and 200 Ks of racing with pit stops tomorrow. Still very much game on.
Well, Crompo, that was a high-speed sort of interchange there between those two guys, and I'm not sure, I don't know if it was based on that first corner situation. I mean, Dave Reynolds didn't have a lot of room there at turn one at the start, but the way that Shane engaged in the back of that car there, I didn't really have an overlap, and it didn't look like to me he was really willing to back out of that. What, your opinion?
No, and I think preceding that, as they came out of turn 4, Murph, and headed up, we're on board with Mark Winterbottom at the moment, looking down at Siberia, and there appeared to be a fair bit of bump and grind going on down there. So I think the point that I was trying to make about it is that what we saw was essentially the outcome of something that had brewed over quite a number of metres on the racetrack. So there'll be more to the story, but it was a pretty wild moment.
Well, I mean, we know how high speed it is through Haitian. We've seen some incidents there over the years. As I'm watching too there, James Courtney running pretty wide.
Yeah, big
and
time.
It's not a place that you want to be exiting at any stage. And as you said, he was incredibly lucky not to travel closer to the fence there. But that's a tough one to call. But I think Shane he should have probably backed out of that, in my opinion.
Well, when we were on the onboard there with Reynolds, it sounded like it was on the hard cut and he couldn't get it out of gear because both hands would have been on the steering wheel to try and catch what was a pretty huge slide at that point with the car number 97 stuck in the back of it. So, yeah, I'm sure this will be one that gets debated this afternoon.
Prosecution calls Greg Murphy and Neil Crompton to the stand. Interesting to see how that one goes. Lowndes leads Whincup by 0.49. McLaughlin lock brake there for Courtney, carrying some good speed into turn 2. Courtney is 6th at the moment. Ahead of Winterbottom, then Tander. Both the HRT Commodores in the top 10.
Where they always get hard to adjudicate those things is that you've just got to understand what the first 60 seconds look like. We see the exclamation point on the end of it. You need to know a little bit about the history sometimes as well. But here we go. There's more of it going on out there at the moment as Tim Slade puts a forceful move on Todd Kelly. Fabian Coulthard's in here as well. On board now with Todd. Turn 6, second gear left-hander. And this is the point where all that action started with Reynolds and Van Gisbergen. And right there, that's the gear shift that David didn't make.
So Nissan Australia is here this weekend. Richard Emery, best of their players at the moment. James Moffat, 5th spot in car 99. Good job. Todd Kelly defends in car 7. He's eyeing up a spot in the top 10. The last spot held by Tim Slade. Rick Kelly locks a brake at MG corner. Avoids contact just with Lee Holdsworth. Holdsworth is 16th.
That's one of a couple of locations on this racetrack where turn and brake is really important. And Rick committed himself to having a look down the inside, and one of the front tyres unweighted and it locks up with brake pressure. It's really easy to do there. Steady gap of half a second between Lowndes and Whincup at the moment. Todd having a look at Slade. These fellas are battling for 10th and 11th at the moment. Back on board with Todd Kelly on the run to turn 2. This is a corner that goes on forever. There's a little over 11 seconds of endless load here. And how about turn 3? Watch this one. 100% flat, and there was 2 or 3 taps of the brake pedal to make sure that he had brake pressure, because you need it when you get down to turn 4. Looks like he's got good pace at the moment, Todd Kelly.
He's got some fire in the belly too, doesn't he? We saw great passion, emotion from him at the Queensland Raceway round of the championship, and he wowed them on the streets of Kuala Lumpur when we were there with a showcase for the sport back in August. Great work. He's chasing, pushing Tim Slade for that 10th spot.
This is pretty well represented here. Moffat's in 5th. So that's a good performance from him relative to his qualifying performance as well. This is an angry pack that's developed in Slade, Todd Kelly, Fabian Coulthard, and then a little gap back to Scotty Pye. Will Davison next, and then Jason Bright starting to get into this game as well.
Coulthard looks good in the Freightliner Commodore. He's eyeing up Kelly, who gets off that turn well as they run down the straight. 6th gear, 285 kilometres an hour on the approach to turn 1. Kelly has a look.
Back to 5th, right-hander at 1. There's a bit of banking in that corner, and it really helps the cars tuck into that inside apex and get out the other side. They carry incredible speed down through there. 210 kilometres an hour in the mid-corner. Tim's car's starting to slide a lot under pressure now. Topic of sliding and tyres and suitability, the Dunlop hard tyre works pretty well around this track. It's very well matched to this track as it is at Bathurst, and you can see that we're getting good vigorous racing as a result of it being well matched to the road here. And how's this little pack starting to tighten up, as I said before, because Slade is sliding so much. He's the cork in the bottle, and now Todd is up the inside of Tim, and he's trying to get to a position where he can just block him through this next right-hander. That's going to be a tall order, a very tall order, and they touch, and Todd Kelly drops 2 to the grass, gets away with it. That's pretty wild stuff. And look in the background also, because it's on between Pye, Davison and Bright. Bright now crisscrosses to grab the other side of the road. He's in the ideal position for this next left-hander. Still half a second between Lowndes and Whincup, 1 and 2. It's a Red Bull wall up front. And here's the replay. I knew this was going to be tough because Todd's out in the grey stuff. They made a little touch there. Rooster tail. Todd comes off the throttle and grabs it. And some seasoned racers there. I think that's Greg Murphy, in fact, on the left with Duddo, and everyone's sucking a bit of air there when they understand what that's all about. Back with Todd. Turn 2. He's got a little bit of oversteer creeping into the game now as well. Here we are. Here's the Red Bull boys. Let's get in there with Murph.
Duddo, you'd be pretty happy that your boys are out the front and not dealing with any of that right now.
Yeah, it's still tight at the front, and McLaughlin's dropped a little bit of pace. It'd be a bit more comfortable if dropped a second or two more would be nice.
Hey, how did you plan that start, mate? I mean, come on.
Mate, you couldn't have scripted it, mate.
No, you couldn't have.
Mate, we gave Ciel a Red Bull and said it's up to you.
Well, he did a good job. What a great getaway. I mean, I know you can't plan that kind of thing, but it is working pretty good. This championship is well alive, obviously, with DR getting a bit of a helping hand there before and at the back of the field.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't need that, and that doesn't help our team's championship anyway because they're not grouped together. But no, our boys doing a fantastic job. Good pace. Engineers have given them good cars, and yeah, it's a long 14 laps.
It is a very long. You've got another long 14 laps coming up very soon too.
Cheers, Murph. Thank you.
Just as we saw in the final race at Pukekohe, it's 1-2 for Red Bull Racing Australia. It's Craig Lowndes leading the way in this one. That's important for the championship. Jamie Whincup second, Scott McLaughlin is third. We go back here to Michael Caruso, who I think drifted back at the start. He's recovered to be 19th. And here's this vigorous battle. Kelly having a look again down the inside in the Car Sales Altima.
Other thing that's happening is Cam Waters is doing a very good job in this race as well, Greg. So Cam's in 9th place as we get to read the part number on the grill of the Nissan Altima there at the moment from Todd Kelly, but he's only a couple of seconds adrift, Cam Waters, from Mark Winterbottom, which is a mighty performance for a guy with no serious V8 supercar exposure here. He's done a drive day, but he's had no racing experience. It's an excellent performance. This is an awesome battle.
It's like there's steam coming out the ears for Todd Kelly after that contact before. Lights on. He's going for it, so you're right, here he is.
He's starting to battle as well now, Todd, so with all the pressure that he's applied to Slade, he's also started to hurt the rear tyre a little bit, so when we're taking those onboard shots, we're seeing a lot of his arms catching that car number 7 at the moment, the car sales entry in the Nissan Altima. This is another telltale spot where balance is in the spotlight over the top of the hill. Todd's actually bringing the performance of the car back, slowing it down a little in order to be able to drive it straight there at the moment and not excite the rear of it any more than he needs to. There's Pither in the Super Black entry having a wriggle under brakes over Lukey Heights as well. Tim Blanchard's the opponent in the Cool Drive entry on the outside. It's on everywhere. Unbelievable.
Pither doesn't want to yield here. This is a fast corner. Blanchard has it though. He seals it. Moves up a spot. Only 0.3 of a second between Lowndes and Whincup at the moment. So there's a bit of pressure on between the two Red Bull teammates. And there's only 1.6 seconds first to third. Meantime, this continues. Tim Slade, Todd Kelly, this is the battle for 10th. He's back with him once again. He lost touch. He might have given those tyres a bit of a rest. Now he's got a second win, Todd Kelly, and he's at it once again. Let's see what the balance is like through 3. Is he flat? No, he wasn't. He actually came out of it in the mid-corner, gave the brake a tap a couple of times as well. And defending, look at Coulthard there in car 14, so he's really got his hands full, Todd Kelly.
Wheel spin, second gear for Fabian. Left foot breaker, different technique. Get that into your second gear. Great racing at Phillip Island this afternoon. The WD-40 Phillip Island SuperSprint. 2 60k races. This is the first of them. Todd Kelly sliding through Hayshed there with the back of the Nissan absolutely adrift.
Meantime, up in front, 2/10 is all that separates. Look at these two, Lowndes and Whincup. Red Bull 1 and 2.
Yeah, Jamie's keeping him honest, isn't he? He's not letting him do it easily. Remember, I've made mention of the fact that Lowndes has got extraordinary numbers in his career at this racetrack. He's had 38 race starts coming into this weekend, and he's converted that into 9 victories. It's a number he shares with Mark Scaife. Got a pile of pole positions as well. 15 top 10s from the last 17 races here. There's something about this place in Craig Lowndes, and it's always been that way in pretty much everything he's driven here. He's got a bit of pressure on at the moment, and it doesn't look like his teammate wants to let him off the hook.
And that success that he's enjoyed here has often let teammates and rivals feel quite perplexed. How does he do it? He's got an affinity of some kind with this venue, and he can make the tyres last. Good job at the moment. We've got a gap back to McLaughlin, as you can see there. About 1.4 seconds almost. Then it's Van Gisbergen. Under maybe a little bit of a cloud at the moment.
Jamie sliding the back of car number 1. I'm wondering whether he's actually going to have a crack at him. Surely not. Can't see that.
He commented on the grid about a way that he might be able to help. And they're thinking about the team's championship, of course. Let's not forget that. Rihanna detailed in the lead up to the race. There's a team's championship here. This is good stuff for them.
Get some fresh air for the engine, please.
So he's making a little bit of water temperature there at the moment. Tucked in behind. You get a boost in all the engine temps, oil and water. You'll also get a hit in brake temp as well. Not that they're particularly high around here, but they've got a fair bit of blocker in most cases in the front ducts. 2 engineers either side of Mark Dutton, Dave Couchy
Separation
closest.
between the cars, mate. Last lap, last lap.
That's a gentle reminder just to take a bit of the pressure off. And Mark Dutton's not doing a lot of breathing or blinking there at the moment, is he? Cars look good coming onto the straight then. It's always a very good telltale for the way in which they're balanced. And the onboard shot from Jamie's car showing us the rear of Craig's car was pretty telling. It was very stable. You'll see it again through the Hayshed here as well.
Well, they were dynamite across the Pertec Enduro Cup and the back end of this season. They've come alive again. Lowndes fighting for the championship. Whincup might mathematically be out of the running, but he is back with a vengeance. It's a 1-2 at the moment. Lowndes leading the way, and it's all good for him in the points race.
The career victory number 102. The last one was a little place called Bathurst for Craig Lowndes, so he's going to do it again.
Do it at a place that he knows and loves. Awesome way to keep the championship fight alive, doing it the best possible way. Lowndes wins race 1 at Phillip Island. It's a 1-2 for Red Bull Racing Australia.
Great stuff. No burnouts, please, mate. Yeah, no problem.
Pretty happy team owner Roland Dane there. Ludo Lacroix there as well a moment ago on the pit wall.
So a couple of strong conversions from grid positions as we look at our top 3 on screen with the onboards. But consider Shane Van Gisbergen sneaking in from 6th to 4th. Also, James Moffat, mighty performance for James from 9th up into 5th place.
And you could ditto that with Garth Tander, who finishes in 8th spot. They're happy at Red Bull Racing Australia, and they should be. Reset and get ready to do it all again. And those guys that are in that close race for the title are again all in close company on the grid for race 32. Awesome day here at Phillip Island. We've had rain on day 1. We thought we might get a sprinkle or 2 this afternoon. So far it seems okay. It's cool outside there, and cool under pressure was Craig Lowndes.
It was very tight at the end, though. The official margin ended up being 1 second, but for the last 3 or 4 laps, it was around 0.2, 0.3 of a second, so very big pressure on Craig Lowndes. That in itself's no big deal. He's done that many, many times in his race driving career. But the question there is that the effect on pushing the car hard means you're eating into the tyres. They've got to juggle and manage their tyres pretty carefully this weekend. Todd Kelly on the radio also just talking about having good pace in the car, but really got hurt in that jostling down between turns 1 and 2 on the opening lap.
So an update on the team's championship standings. Pepsi Max crew still leading, and we've got a good swag of points still up for grabs there, but Remember, it sorts the garage allocation for next year's championship. Red Bull fighting hard in the back end of this series. And that's the best way to do it. A 1-2, great result for them. And remember, of course, a post-race investigation to come for that incident involving David Reynolds and Shane Van Gisbergen. The Kiwi finishing 4th, David Reynolds 25th.
And stop to consider about the big moment that Lowndes had in New Zealand as well, and the trauma that that crew's been through. As ever, massively popular with our customers down here. And remember that he got back on the podium in New Zealand on the final day of competition as well, and now he's reinforced it with another victory. So, as you said a few moments ago, Greg, it's the ideal way to keep the pressure up in the championship. Very, very well played.
Congratulations, Craig Lowndes. What a start, and 10 victories around this Phillip Island circuit. Well done.
Oh, thank you. I think that we had to get a good start. We knew that, you know, Scotty was going to be fast. We knew Jamie was going to be fast. And I think I'm a little bit thankful that it was Jamie behind me. Sort of, I think he had a bit of pace in the middle of that race, so very thankful. But, you know, of course, you know, the car was reasonably good. You know, I just had to get that good start. So I would like to know what it is, but we'll find out later.
You get to do it again. Maybe you'll find out then. There's a trophy from the girls here at WD40. Congratulations, Craig Lowndes. Jamie Whincup, it was a 1-2 Red Bull Racing Australia at New Zealand. Again here at the WD40 Phillip Island. You boys are on fire.
Yeah, cars are good. Bit of a slump in the middle, but you know, both cars are rockets. So Lowndes got a good start, led into one, and I was just sort of protecting from there on in. But see what the next one brings.
Absolutely. There you go. A nice trophy from the girls at WD40. Scott McLaughlin couldn't quite get that start that we spoke about on the grid, but fantastic to get a podium here at Phillip Island.
Yeah, man, Lowndesy came off the block like Usain Bolt. It was crazy. So it was good on him. He did a good job, and obviously Jamie was just going to tuck in there, just doing a nice little team job. So no, third's a good thing. We've got another race at the front row, so we'll see how we go.
Look forward to it. Here you are, trophy from the girls at WD40. Well done.
Results of race 31, and we'll get set to do it all again very, very shortly. Lowndes and Whincup, McLaughlin third, Van Gisbergen with a question mark. Post-race investigation to come, and some of you asking on Twitter, is there any politics in that, in the tap and run, the bump and run with David Reynolds? We'll discuss that later. Todd Kelly outside the 10, but it was a great battle that he enjoyed with Tim Slade that went all the way to the line, and Coulthard showing some good speed. Scott Pye dropping down the order early. He finished 13th ahead of Bright, Will Davison and Lee Holdsworth, and Dean Canto in for Ash Walsh this weekend, finishes 22nd. So here's the updated championship standings. Mark Winterbottom came home 7th in that race. Craig Lowndes with the victory means that he reduces the margin. Frosty was enjoying a 239-point lead. It's a drop, but only a small one, down to 213. But Lowndes moves to second on the ladder, ahead of Reynolds as a result of that incident.
So David Reynolds checking in with Rod Nash. Mate, not a great situation. High speed as well. I bet you the old heart rate went up there for a second going into Hayshed. What's your take on what happened?
Mate, I don't know, like he was drilling me a few corners before, and then he drilled me at Siberia, and he must have got like the tiniest little overlap, and mate, I don't know, I was just turning around at high speed. I don't know, it's just a really, really silly thing. Really stupid, man, really stupid.
We're high speed here, mate, and at any stage, though, and especially in your situation at the moment, you've got a guy that's not in championship. He's just going out there for race wins and podiums, and here you are, you know, fighting for this opportunity to have that kind of happen.
I know it's not very good, but like the good drivers in the field, they can pass you without crashing into you. So, you know, obviously I just must have got a bad one beside me.
You expecting anything from Shane on that one?
What do you mean?
As far as an apology?
Oh, he's dead to me, bro. He's dead to me. Dead.
A deeply disappointed David Reynolds. Let's take a look at highlights of an important race 31 in the championship. A lightning textbook start by Craig Lowndes. It couldn't have been any better. From the second row, he moves into the race lead. That was important. Down at turn 1, this happened between Reynolds and Shane Van Gisbergen. Van Gisbergen may have had some steam up as a result of that. A couple of others went off. including Rick Kelly and Scott Pye. They all got back on and continued. Bit of contact between David Wall and Tim Blanchard. And as we motored on, this happened. Knock, knock. Remember me? Shane van Gisbergen. Reynolds with his hands full, needing a gear change. Gone. He finished last, David Reynolds, at frightening speed, loops around, somehow manages to keep it off the wall, but he was second in the championship chase heading into this race. Great, a vigorous battle between Todd Kelly and Tim Slade. They too had contact. That would have been a heart stopper, and it fired up Kelly. He fought all the way to the line, chased Slade the entire way. Craig Lowndes led home a Red Bull Racing Australia 1-2 finish, and Jamie Whincup kept him honest. At times, it was down to 0.2 of a second, the gap between the teammates. It's good for Lowndes in the title race and good for Red Bull in the Teams Championship.
So David Reynolds has come and had a try to have a chat with Shane van Gisbergen, who's in the truck at the moment. We're not able to get in there. They were in conversation with Steve Hallam and the rest of the team. Dave went in and asked what the problem was and the issue, and I think from what I could gather and what I heard was Shane said turn one, you got me at turn one. So Dave is sort of not sort of really aware of what happened there. We obviously saw it on TV that Shane went into the grass off the side at the exit of turn one, but so Shane's obviously feeling that there was something in that, albeit what happened in return, I don't know if it was an equal and fair response.
So let's have a look at what happens at turn one here.
Yeah, so this is what I commented on before, that I thought that Shane probably be aggrieved about. But in fairness to Dave, he'd be unaware of it. In the first lap, his eyes are forward. He probably wouldn't be too concerned about whatever's coming along behind. But you have to understand, at the heat of the battle, when everyone's got their blood up, then there's not much that you can do. So David's gone up there for an interview. That didn't go so well. A bit of emotion in the game, which is standard procedure. But I think there was more going on as well between what we saw at one and then what we saw at Siberia and at Hayshed. I've got a feeling there's a bit of other stuff going on. We certainly saw in the left-hander at turn 6 there was a bit of Dave's pretty upset about this at the moment, and